Welcome back. We often hear about companies moving for lower taxes, right? But today, we're digging into something, well, a bit more complex. It's about the really strategic moves of what people are calling smart manufacturers. High-tech outfits, tight margins. And they seem to be zeroing in on one particular area, upstate New York, specifically Fulton County.
That's right. And it's not just a simple cost-cutting exercise.
No, definitely not. I mean, the pressure these companies are under is immense. You've got costs shooting up, infrastructure that's frankly ancient, especially for modern automation. And then there's the workforce challenge, finding people who are actually ready for these specialized jobs.
It's a perfect storm, really. They need a location that ticks all those boxes, not just one or two.
Exactly. And when we started looking into why Fulton County, the initial thought was, okay, maybe it's just cheap land.
Yeah, that was my first thought, too. But the sources we dug into, they paint a very different picture. There are actually six specific factors driving this.
Yeah.
And they're not the obvious ones.
Right. It's less about just finding a discount and more about, well, what? Certainty, predictability.
Certainty and execution, definitely. And a predictable total cost of ownership over the long haul. That's the mission for us today, for you listening. Let's cut through the usual noise and really break down how this region has managed to bundle financial incentives with some surprisingly specialized infrastructure.
Creating a unique package, essentially.
Precisely. An almost irresistible one for certain high-tech industries.
Okay, let's start with the most immediate thing, the money. Incentives. For a big manufacturer looking at relocation, those initial numbers have to work. So, what kind of financial firepower is the Fulton County IDA, let's call them FCADA, bringing to the table?
Well, it goes beyond just, general tax breaks. They've really structured it carefully. The core is a 10-year tax reduction agreement. They call it a pilot payment in lieu of taxes.
Pilot, okay. And you mentioned it's structured. How so?
It's tiered, which means it's designed to give the biggest boost, the most capital savings, right at the beginning. Those critical first few years when cash flow is everything.
That makes sense. But, lots of places offer incentives. Tax breaks aren't exactly revolutionary. What makes this pilot different? Is there a catch?
That's a fair question. The difference really lies in the depth and how quickly these exemptions kick in. They focus on three specific areas that can free up millions in capital almost immediately.
Okay, let's hear them. What's the first big one?
First, and this is probably the biggest headline grabber, is a 50% property tax exemption in year one.
50% in year one?
Yep, 50%. Then it tapers down gradually over the next 9 years. Think about the impact on overhead right out of the gate. It's a massive cash flow advantage.
No kidding. A 50% break on property tax.
Ah.
Yeah, that's a game changer when you're budgeting for a huge capital project. What else is in the package? What are the other two?
The other two are really aimed at these high-tech manufacturers who are investing heavily in new equipment. There's an 8% sales tax exemption.
On what specifically?
On all the necessary equipment, machinery, robotics,
Okay.
and also on the construction materials for the facility itself.
Okay, 8% on potentially millions of dollars of gear and building supplies. That adds up fast.
It really does. And the third piece is a 1% exemption on the mortgage recording tax. Again, sounds small, but on a large industrial mortgage, it's significant. When you bundle those three, the property tax break, the sales tax exemption on equipment, the mortgage tax relief, it allows companies to redirect serious capital right back into the operation. Maybe scale faster, buy more advanced tech.
Right. It greases the wheels significantly on the financial side. So money's clear, the savings look real. But like we said, savings aren't everything if the project gets bogged down. Delays are the enemy of ROI. Right. Manufacturers need to know they can actually build and start operating quickly. We always hear shovel ready. What does that really mean here?
Yeah, that term gets thrown around a lot. But here, it seems to mean they've actively de-risked the startup phase. We're talking about sites like Tryon Technology Park or Crossroads Park.
What makes them de-risked?
The fundamentals are already in place. Utilities are pre-installed, water, sewer, power. And crucially, the zoning is already aligned for industrial use. It's locked in.
Ah, so you skip that whole bureaucratic nightmare of getting permits and approvals, which can take forever sometimes.
Exactly. You bypass the potential for permit purgatory, as some call it. And just to give you, the listener, some context in some places, just getting the zoning approved can take longer than the actual construction.
Crazy. So What kind of timeline are we talking about in Fulton County? Did they put a number on it?
The sources point to a commitment, a pretty strong one, to a streamlined process. They're talking 60 to 90-day approvals.
60 to 90 days. That's fast for major industrial projects.
It's incredibly fast, and that dramatically cuts down the execution risk. Combine that speed guarantee with the pre-cleared zoning and utilities, it means a much faster path to actually making things, which of course translates directly to seeing returns on that massive investment sooner.
That certainty, that speed. Yeah, that's huge. Okay, so the money works, the sites are genuinely ready, but you can have the best facility in the world, and if you can't staff it.
Yeah.
Which brings us to factor 3, people, the workforce. And it's not just about finding bodies, right? It's about finding skilled people ready for modern manufacturing.
Absolutely, and this is often the trickiest part. The solution they've developed isn't just posting job ads. It's about building a specific talent pipeline before the company even fully arrives.
How do they do that?
Through partnerships, strategic partnerships with local colleges and technical schools. They actually work with the incoming manufacturer to customize the training programs.
Let's tell us how.
To match the company's specific needs. So if a company needs workers trained on a particular type of robotic arm or specific safety protocols or certain quality control methods, the curriculum is adjusted. So when people graduate from these programs, they're not just generally skilled, they're certified for the actual jobs that company needs to fill.
So it's a tailored workforce solution.
Exactly. The sources describe the resulting local labor pool as, and I quote, willing, trainable, and affordable. That combination directly addresses one of the biggest pain points for advanced manufacturing today.
Willing, trainable, and affordable. That's a powerful trio. Okay, that handles the initial staffing. But what about down the road? You know how it is sometimes regions roll out the red carpet, big ceremony ribbon cutting, and then poof, they vanish. Is there long-term support? An actual partnership?
That's factor 4, and it's something the sources really emphasize. This isn't pitched as just a real estate deal. It's framed as a genuine, ongoing operational partnership.
Okay, what does that look like in practice after the company moves in?
The FCDI stays involved. They help with coordinating local contractors or sorting out utility issues. They provide direct support for workforce onboarding, helping integrate those newly trained people. And critically, they keep working to help the company find and secure additional funding, like state or federal grants or ongoing workforce tax credits that might become available.
So they're like an ongoing advocate within the local system for the company.
That's a good way to put it. They actively advocate, especially if the company plans a phased expansion or wants to add new product lines down the line. This is really important because often the biggest challenges and costs come years after the launch, during growth phases. Knowing you have that dedicated local support, it lowers the long-term risk profile considerably.
That makes sense. Having a local partner for the long haul changes the calculation.
Okay.
So we've got finances, speed, workforce, and partnership. Let's shift to the bedrock stuff, infrastructure. Factor 5. Now, some of this is what you might expect from upstate New York, right?
Yeah, the basics are there. Good proximity to the big East Coast markets and ports, reliable power, that's a big one, decent broadband access, plus, a generally pro-business environment, relatively competitive labor and facility costs compared to major metro areas. These are solid foundational advantages.
Okay, solid foundations. But you mentioned something earlier, something non-obvious, a unique infrastructure piece.
Ah, yes. This was the real surprise, the thing that jumped out from the sources. It's all about water. Industrial scale water, and maybe even more importantly, wastewater capacity.
Water and wastewater. Why is that so critical?
Think about industries like biotech, pharmaceuticals, food and beverage processing, even certain types of advanced materials. They use enormous volumes of water. Consistent, reliable access is non-negotiable.
Okay, so what's the situation in Fulton County?
They have serious water security. The region draws from 4 interconnected reservoirs holding something like 710 million gallons. That capacity ensures they can reliably meet very high industrial demand, even during dry spells or seasonal peaks. It takes water supply worries off the table.
All right, reliable water in. But what about the water out? Wastewater treatment for these high-volume users. That's usually a massive headache and a huge cost center, right?
It absolutely is. And this is where we find that aha detail, as you put it. The Gloversville-Johnstown Joint Wastewater Treatment Facility. Let's just call it the GJJWTF.
Okay, GJJWTF. Quite a name. What's the big deal about this specific plant?
2 things mainly. Capacity and, believe it or not, energy. First, capacity. It can process up to 13.8 million gallons per day. That's a lot. But here's the operational kicker. Right now, it's only operating at about half that capacity.
Half capacity. So there's massive room for growth already built in. New companies wouldn't need to trigger expensive plant expansions.
Exactly. That existing headroom guarantees capacity for significant industrial growth without needing new public investment in the treatment infrastructure itself. That's huge.
Okay, massive capacity is great, but you mentioned energy. What was that about?
This is the truly remarkable part we found buried in the details.
Yeah.
This plant, the GJJWTF, is apparently the only municipal wastewater treatment facility in the entire United States
Yeah.
that actually produces more energy than it consumes.
Wait, hang on. A wastewater plant that's energy positive? How is that even possible?
Through combined heat and power, or CHP. They capture the methane gas produced during the treatment process, a natural byproduct, and use it to generate electricity and heat right there on site. And they do it so efficiently that they generate surplus energy. It's essentially running its own operations and then some.
That's incredible. A wastewater plant that powers itself and potentially exports energy. What does that mean for a manufacturer using it? Lower bills.
It translates directly into lower operating costs for the system, which can mean more stable or lower discharge fees for industrial users. Plus, it's a huge sustainability story. Companies can point to this in their environmental reports, and the benefits get really specific depending on the industry. Think about a dairy processor, for example, dealing with high-strength organic waste like whey. Treating that is normally very expensive.
Right, requires specialized pre-treatment usually.
But because this GJJWTF plant is so advanced and has this capacity, companies like that can get access to dedicated direct discharge pipelines. The plant essentially has built-in pre-treatment capabilities for certain high-strength waste streams. This means significant annual savings for those companies, and it also helps accelerate the environmental permitting process because the treatment capability is already proven and the capacity is clearly there.
Wow. Okay, that wastewater piece alone, that's a massive operational advantage, almost a hidden trump card for specific industries.
It really is. It addresses a major cost and compliance hurdle proactively.
So let's tie this all together then. We've got the 10-year pilot incentives, the 60, 90-day approval speed guarantee, the tailored workforce pipelines, the long-term operational partnership, the solid foundational infrastructure, and this unique energy-positive wastewater treatment advantage. 6 factors. What's the big picture takeaway?
The big picture is that deciding where to locate a modern manufacturing facility has become incredibly sophisticated. It's moved way beyond just chasing the cheapest square footage or the lowest tax rate.
Right. Our sources really drive that home. Yeah. These smart manufacturers are making highly strategic choices. They're calculating the total cost of ownership over years, not just the upfront price tag.
Exactly. They need that execution certainty, knowing the permits will come through quickly, knowing the site is ready. And they value that potential for long-term growth supported by the ongoing local partnership. They're leveraging these specific, sometimes hidden regional advantages, like that wastewater plant, to gain a real competitive edge.
If you look at it from the economic development angle, what does this story tell us?
It shows that the winning formula today seems to be about smartly combining financial tools like that front-loaded pilot with investments in specialized, future-focused infrastructure. The energy-positive wastewater facility is the perfect example. Taking a unique local asset and turning it into a powerful magnet for exactly the kind of high-tech, high-value industry regions want to attract. It's targeted, it's strategic.
Absolutely. It really highlights how forward-thinking regions are differentiating themselves. Which brings us to a final thought for you, the listener. If the future of manufacturing hinges on things like hyper-efficiency, supply chain resilience, and verifiable sustainability, the Fulton County example makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other regions out there, maybe currently flying under the radar, have their own unique local resources? Maybe it's an unusual energy source, a specific logistics hub, or, yes, an advanced water treatment system that they could potentially leverage into a major competitive advantage for attracting the next wave of industry. It suggests maybe looking beyond the usual metrics when evaluating locations.
It's definitely something worth thinking about, those hidden assets.
Indeed. Well, that's our deep dive for today. We hope this look at strategic manufacturing migration gave you some fresh perspective. Thanks for joining us.